It was in late November when the dreams first began, subtle yet unnerving whispers slipping between the cracks of Daniel's subconscious. He brushed it off as stress. That was the logical thing to assume. After all, his promotion had demanded far more of him than he had anticipated. But then, whispers transformed into soft murmurs during his waking hours. He'd spin around in the empty room, his heart an alarmed bird trapped in his chest, but always found nothing. Daniel lived alone in his small apartment above a deteriorating cafe, the scent of strong coffee permanently seeping through cracks in the wooden floors. He had chosen it because of its cost-effectiveness. Aimless and barely scraping by, every penny had counted then. And though his circumstances had improved significantly since his promotion, Daniel found himself trapped now, held hostage by inexplicable occurrences rather than financial pressures. Days turned into weeks. The whispers morphed gradually into humming, an eerie tune hauntingly familiar yet impossible to place. At first, Daniel was convinced it was a prankster neighbor or perhaps faulty pipes resonating oddly from the downstairs cafe's kitchen at night. Yet the humming grew louder, more rhythmically complex, layered with meaning he couldn't decipher. Nightfall became his own personal nightmare. Daniel soon struggled with sleep altogether, frightened by the inevitability of what manifested as soon as his consciousness began slipping away. Dreams of corridors sprawling endlessly into darkness, resonating with quiet giggles, soft footsteps, whispers coaxing him forward. One night, compelled by an irresistible curiosity and fear, Daniel decided to step outside his room in the dream's realm rather than fight it. Down a hallway impossibly long and narrow, feet gliding quietly over shadowed floors, he chased thin streams of ghostly laughter. The walls seemed softer here, less tangible, breathing with his every step. At hallway's end loomed an unfamiliar door, its surface marred by deep scratches and flaking paint that moved subtly when he wasn't directly looking. With a trembling hand, Daniel reached for the rusted handle, and the door sighed as it opened, a sorrowful breath inviting him inside. Light from nowhere illuminated a room alive, heaving and pulsating gently underfoot, like it was constructed entirely of organic tissue. Tendrils reached out toward him, forming an arm that caressed his spine. Daniel recoiled, stumbling back awake, gasping into the harsh brightness of dawn. It had felt too real. It wasn't long before the surreal occurrences began bleeding into reality more vividly. Every room carried whispers. Each mirror briefly reflected movement that vanished the moment his focus sharpened. His reflection appeared subtly off, eyes slightly larger, smile slightly too stretched. Differences he knew deeply but couldn't explain aloud without sounding mad. Afraid of isolation, Daniel finally confided in Lyra, his co-worker and only person he considered trustworthy. She listened patiently, though her brow slowly knotted the deeper Daniel probed into his haunting experiences. "Percent you've really been pushing yourself lately, Daniel," was eventually all she managed. Her words stung, though she meant kindness. He could sense her growing discomfort. That night, Daniel recognized isolation was his only option again. Days and nights blurred indistinguishably together, Daniel increasingly withdrawn, his routine unraveling steadily around him. The subtle yet insidious delusions intensified, a scratching at windows illogically high, laughter resonating beneath floorboards at odd hours, shadows stalking his peripheral vision with unfamiliar and cruel forms that mocked sanity. Finally, unable to bear the tormenting ambiguity, Daniel resolved to confront the truth. Late one night, compelled by whispers resonating within walls themselves, he descended slowly towards the cafe below, a place oddly silent, devoid of life that had previously defined it. The cafe door creaked open by itself, as if expecting him. Inside, the room appeared impossibly altered, walls twisted subtly, furniture rearranged at irrational angles. Echoes reverberated softly, drawing Daniel's gaze to the employee-only door at the cafe's back. He knew instinctively that answers waited there, behind that closed threshold. Pressure swelled unbearably, whispers hissing encouragement as Daniel reached for the knob, the door swinging inward slowly, willingly, revealing yet another impossibly long corridor, a physical echo of the nightmare he'd escaped weeks prior. This hall was far darker, emptier, and infinitely more real. His breathing shallow, Daniel moved forward, his senses dancing at the thin edge between fear and curiosity. That humming again, seeping from each darkened alcove he passed, finally reaching another door, familiar scratches etched deep within its wood. He knew unmistakably this was the end, this moment his destiny. Opening it slowly, Daniel stared into blackness that swirled like oil, alive with movement, and visions shifting rapidly before settling into horrible clarity. The faces of countless individuals, twisted in silent expressions of absolute terror. In their agonized faces, Daniel finally recognized the humming song's meaning. The lyrics it silently spoke, an invitation that could never be refused. New lines joined the harmony, a melodic, sorrowful voice he recognized intimately. The door behind groaned shut forever, welcoming Daniel into eternal harmony among faces twisted delicately in fear, a phantom chorus bound eternally to torment and mystery. Above, the cafe returned to normalcy by morning, unaware and ignorant of the newly joined whisper weaving quietly within its walls, patiently awaiting its next descent into haunting song.